Nick speaking, and welcome to this video, right, Necron Learning Curve, and we're continuing on now with the HQ choices. So, first of all is Imotekh the Stormlord. Let's have a look at the model first. So this is a Finecast model. It's my first, potentially last Finecast model. Hate Finecast, really, to be fair. The actual sculpt itself is fantastic, nothing wrong with the sculpt. I was even able to do a little conversion. I put in this little green rod into mine. When I first got this, the rod, as you can see, is incredibly bent. I did put hairdryer on it, I did bend it back into shape. It was fine for quite some time, but over a period of time being in my case, it just bent back. Not only that, but the cloak here just kept breaking every time I was painting it. This is an awful model, really. Air bubbles and stuff on there, I don't like it. But anyway, putting Finecast aside, the model or the unit itself, Stormlord. Okay, so before 6th edition came out, Stormlord was the 100% go-to HQ unit. And a night fight, etc. was just so fantastic back then. But of course, the Necron Codex was designed for 6th edition. So once actually 6th edition came out, the Stormlord sort of went down in flavour considerably. Generally, for everyone really, including myself. And I switched over to the Overlord. Now we're going to talk about the Overlord in a separate video. But the Overlord basically was almost like a Stormlord, minus some of the special features that it has, and then it was just cheaper, basically. But the Stormlord still has a good place in our Necron army. It's a little bit more pacific, and I suppose that's what he's designed for. He is a special character after all. So you are only going to be taking him if you have a specific use. If you're just doing a general Necron army, you just take an Overlord. You wouldn't take a Stormlord. You'd take a Stormlord if you have a specific reason for taking him. So what am I talking about? Well, there's various things. For example, he has the ability to seize the initiative on a 4+. Not against orcs, I may add. But that is great. So if your army build is specifically designed around having first turn, that is a great reason to take him. He of course has his Storm, or basically any unit on the table, enemy units, you roll a dice on a 6, they get hit. And it's quite a good weapon. It's enough to take a Rhino out, strength 8, so that's pretty good, and it's D6 shots. Great for getting first blood, or the potential for first blood, but more importantly, it's good fun. And of course there's no range on that as well, which is great. And not only that, but he has the ability to keep night fight going. Now, like I said, 6th edition night fight is not as good as it was in 5th edition for him, but it does give you the advantage, especially if you've got an army yourself that isn't that shooty. For example, say a Scarab farm. You don't need to shoot, it doesn't matter if it's night fights. So you can use him for that advantage. Now on the other side of the coin, if you want your enemy to be in night fight and you don't want to be in night fight, you can just take a couple of solar pulse cryptics and then you can turn them on in your turn, and then it will be night fight in your opponent's turn. So there are lots of options. I mean, you could even potentially put in the Chronometron cryptic, letting you re-roll the night fight roll, so you can keep night fight going for as long as possible. So he does bring a lot to your army if you need him, basically. He has the Pharaon rule, so whatever unit he's with basically has relentless, so you can move and shoot and assault and all that goodness. Great for your warriors. Of course he has a usual reanimation protocol, ever living. He has humiliating defeat if you do happen to get him into close combat, which could be fairly useful. And what else? He has the Ply Sanctuary, so he potentially can return with full wounds if you're lucky. And then you have the Blood Nanoscarabs, which is also potentially useful, especially if you have a flayed one unit. So basically, with Blood Nanoscarabs, you select a unit, a non-vehicle unit, and then any flayed one units that deep strikes within 6 inches of that unit does not scatter, which, okay, they're not going to be able to shoot because flayed ones don't shoot, but it could be good for getting you into a position if you want to go down that route. Excuse me. So he has a lot to offer. I really like him. He's got a 2+ save and a 3+ invulnerable save, all that sort of goodness you'd expect from a 225 point character. So he's not exactly cheap, especially, as I said, the Overlord, potentially geared out 165 points, considerably less, and potentially doing, you know, quite a reasonable job, unless you specifically want to get that night fight or that first turn facility. He potentially can be used in conjunction with some of the other special characters, which we're going to have a look at later, just giving you a few extra options, especially with that deep strike facility. But overall, Stormlord, very, very good, well worth the points, as long as you're taking him for a reason. So don't just take him thinking, yeah, most expensive HQ, I'll have him, he's got to be the best, because that's not necessarily the way to go. You're probably better off just having a normal Overlord for that. But if you have a specific reason, well worth investing the points, and he can be very, very useful character. Okay, that's it for Stormlord. Thanks for watching.